Hi, welcome to AI Trust Talks. I'm your host, Emma Johnson, and I'm excited to have you here. Artificial intelligence is changing the way we live, work, and connect, but with great power comes great responsibility. That's why this podcast exists, to deep dive into the critical conversations about AI safety, ethics, and responsible use. Every episode will explore the real-world challenges and opportunities AI brings, from helping business owners and corporate leaders make better decisions, to empowering data scientists to create responsible solutions, to guiding parents on how AI impacts their children's safety. This podcast is for anyone who cares about building a future we can all trust. So whether you're here to learn, debate, or just stay ahead of the curve, I invite you to join me on this journey as we shape the future of AI together. This is AI Trust Talks, where we build trust and technology, one conversation at a time. I'm excited to have Ami Cosgrove on AI Trust Talks today. Ami is a distinguished leader in data transformation and has been working at PwC Middle East for nearly 2 decades and recently served as the Chief Data Officer. Throughout her service, she has played a pivotal role in shaping data governance, digital trust, and AI strategies, driving innovation across the firm's operations and client solutions. Beyond her technical expertise, Ami has been a mentor and advocate, launching PwC's first graduate program within internal firm services and actively supporting diversity-focused initiatives like She Loves Data. Her leadership has left a lasting impact on the digital transformation landscape in the Middle East. I'm sure you enjoy Ami's advice and insights as much as I do today. Ami, I'm so excited to have you on today's podcast for AI Trust Talks. I know it's been a while that we've been planning this, so I'm excited to actually finally have you here.
It's great to be here, Emma. Thanks so much.
Awesome. So for today's session, I really want to talk about kind of the history of and your career journey that you've been on and how you entered into the world of being a chief data officer, and then your experience as a chief data officer. A lot of people are really come to me and ask me how I got into data in the AI world and what journey I took and any recommendations I have. So I know a lot of people out there would love to hear your insights as to the journey that you've been on as well. So to kick us off today, do you want to give us a bit of background as to what your journey has been into the role of chief data officer? And was there any pivotal moments or decisions that you took to really lead you on this journey?
Wow, starting with a bang. For me, it's not been a straight line. And I think these paths are very different for everybody. I think taking opportunities as they came along has always been what I've done. So I kind of leap through the open doors with a lot of energy and enthusiasm and a lot of luck as well along the way. I have been a consultant, was where I started, sort of say 20 years ago, and was really working on digital transformations back then. But we didn't call it that then. No one really knew what they were, and they weren't packaged in the way that they are today. But I was doing that, and really data was never at the front of those pieces of work or the front of mind. Data kind of came along for the journey. So it's always been there bubbling away. And the opportunity to then move internally for the company I was working with at the time was a great opportunity to help them transform themselves. We'd been very clear with our clients around what they should do, how they should be doing it, what tools they can be using for various initiatives, but very lacking in terms of the support for doing it for ourselves. And so I took that opportunity on and spent a good sort of 5-6 years working on a proper transformation, really from digital more and the tech focus. And data comes along with that. It's sort of silently in the background. You don't really notice it's there. And it's only really recently that the opportunity to create a data office, another opportunity that came my way, and I took it. So really, it was by accident that I landed here, and without knowing it, had been building this set of experiences in the background. It wasn't all data. I think a lot of what's made this exciting for me is that I know a lot about the business I worked for. I know a lot about the people. And so being able to do that meant that I could become a much more effective data leader, because you need to build that trust. You need to build that knowledge and experience. It's not just about data. It's not just about the things. There's a lot more than that. And I think the experience I had to bring me to this point today is why I ended up here. Bit of a journey, bit of a maze that I've come through, but it's an exciting one.
I love that story, and so many people either do follow in the same industry or the same direction in their career, and then there's people like yourself and myself who have really taken a lot of different angles to build up all that collective knowledge to be able to succeed in roles like this. And the journey of data, it's amazing what we know today and the value we put on data versus what we didn't sort of 20 odd years ago when we started in these types of roles. So how has the role of chief data or a chief data officer evolved over the years? I know sort of pre the AI hype and the AI boom, a lot of chief data officers were very much focused on the defensive side of things rather than the opportunity of data. How do you see the role evolving?
Great question. The challenge that we have is that it's not really defined as a role. It's very in one sort of standardized way. Different organizations have different chiefs looking after different things. Data, people are figuring out what to do with it, and how can they capitalize on it. Whereas where my experience has been, and where I think we'll be seeing more and more as we move forward, is around the governance side of it and the how we handle it, what we do. Not so much the dashboards and the insights and all that, and the decision making. All that's incredibly important. The bits around sort of risk and compliance needs to be part of that as well. And I think getting the mix of both needs to be there for this role. So I think if you are very much a technical person or a data scientist, you need to have that other side to you and to the role, and vice versa. So depending on your organization and where their focus is, I think to keep in mind it's important that you'll need both of those things.
And in your experience in kind of the consultancy business, are you seeing organizations across the Middle East hiring for chief data roles?
They're hiring in the data space, definitely. Does everybody need a CDO? Not necessarily. Again, it depends on the size of your organization, the volume of data, etc. But I think generally across the Middle East and the world, data is now being considered separately. It's been seen as equally as important. It's not just something that's happening in the back end. It's now at the forefront. It's in the steercos. It's in the board meetings. It's becoming increasingly important that people are aware of and trust the data that they have to be able to make better decisions. That they need people in charge of it. They need someone responsible for that, whether that's part of an existing role or as a standalone role. But it's definitely becoming more and more visible as a space in the market.
And in your experience, what are some of the key responsibilities that you're seeing under the CDO role?
It very much differs. But for me, I think somebody that has a strong governance and compliance mindset, it shouldn't be seen as we're policing how people are using data, but really it's about building that trust. Because as soon as if there's ever a problem and that trust breaks, it's very hard to get that back. And organizations need to have that trust in place. And so I think making sure that it's not all just about strategy and money making, it's about protection. It's about protecting yourself, protecting your people, protecting your organization, and your clients if you work in that sort of environment. So I think having that under that as well. There's the architecture and the infrastructure that you need to be able to manage your data properly. I think that's important. But again, could that sit with technology teams? Does that sit with a data office, a standalone data office? It's going to depend. And then there's the piece around what do you do with your data? How do you use it to drive insights, actionable insights for you and your organization? So I think those 2 or 3 things are key. Again, where it sits within your org is up to you and very much down to the type of business you have. But I think if you've got those things covered, you're doing well.
Good advice there. And I want us to get into the deep and dirty of what a real chief data officer does. There's a nice title to it. But what are some of what's a typical day of a chief data officer? What kind of things keep you busy and in a daily basis, and the things that you're kind of thinking about for the future?
For me, there was never the same day twice, which is kind of what made it exciting and kept me interested and keeps me interested in it today. Given the fact that I did have a standalone team looking at this ourselves, we were responsible for many things. There was a lot of the business as usual, making sure things were working aspect to the job. But really, I'd wake up and have to be dealing with potentially something that someone had done, typically by accident. They've emailed, used the wrong email address and sent something to someone, those sorts of things happen. They've lost their access card, or their laptop, or different things. So some of the days I'd be dealing very reactively to these things, fielding questions that came from the business. We were very much wanted to be seen as a group of people that you could come to and ask. Even if it was you think it might be a silly question. Can I do this? What do I do with this? This is happening. My clients asked me this. What do we say? So again, that element of answering questions and supporting our people, supporting the organization, so that they were making better decisions when it came to managing their data. So that was always very interesting for me. And you never know what was going to come. You never know what was going to happen. That for me was always really exciting. And then there was the element of further optimizing our internal infrastructure. So tools, technology, the ever increasing amount of regulations that we'd need to comply with, always changing. There's always moving pieces. And so there was elements of that as well to the role. And then for me, it was building out this team. And getting the message across to the business that we were here, and helping them, creating content for them to understand what to do, because everybody is impacted with regards to data, and so making sure that people understood the part they had to play, what they and what was safe to do and what wasn't. So yeah, it wasn't a typical day. Always interesting to hear what other people wanted to know. And how we could help them.
It's amazing when we do talk about data, when you're not selling a product, and trying to get people to understand the value it can bring you if you do the right thing with it, if you build that trust with your customers or your employees.
And the quality of it, is important. Without that, people aren't going to trust you. They're not going to trust the information you're giving them. They're not going to be able to make smart choices if they don't have that trust. And that trust starts with educating themselves, becoming a bit more literate, being curious, asking questions. Getting people to ask questions was hard enough, but then when you build that momentum, and people see, actually, this is a really cool thing. It's actually been really helpful, and people start to think, actually, maybe I shouldn't be doing that. Maybe I should do this instead. Or and especially now with AI and the tools that are available for people, it wasn't always. People were so excited about jumping on these tools and technologies, but weren't actually thinking about the impact that might be having. So it's becoming increasingly more important.
And what would keep you awake at night?
Great question. What would keep me awake at night would be cyber attacks, data leaks, anything like that. Whether that be intentional or unintentional, data leakage was the typical thing keeping us awake at night, keeping leadership awake at night was always that. There's always that risk there. Yeah. You can put in the best cybersecurity money can buy, but if hackers want in, they're getting in. And then also, with people, you can educate people, you can put technical blocks in place, you can do all sorts of those things as well. But if someone wants to take data, they will find a way. I wouldn't say I was wide awake all night, because we've done our very, very best to make sure, but there's always that 1% that
gets through. And you've talked about data quality and data governance. Can you elaborate a bit more on how you would actually implement and maintain a good, robust data governance framework?
Again, it was less about policing. The goal is to be seen as a support function. We're here to support you. We're not here to say no and police you. And I think, again, governance, it all comes down to building that trust, having robust processes in place, having policies with teeth, but that weren't too restrictive. We don't want to stifle innovation. If anything, having good governance makes that innovation more sustainable to what you want to put into practice. Governance is around building that trust. It's about having robust ways of doing things and making decisions, making change stick. Because ultimately, that's what we're doing is we're transforming organizations with this stuff. So how do you get the most from it? And I think that's where the governance becomes really important, and holding people accountable and then having those people. So having very strong owners of that data, which is particularly important when it comes to quality. And I've seen so many times people going, well, that's not mine. It's not my data. That belongs to finance, or that belongs to HR, or that's someone else's. And no one wants to be responsible for that data. But actually, a little bit of hard work, if you haven't been maintaining that quality, a little bit of hard work to clean up that data, suddenly everything else becomes a lot easier. And the tools you want to use become a lot easier. And so I think, and in terms of governing, it becomes easier if you know what you've got, why you've got it, and is it of good quality.
Yeah. And moving to building trust within AI, what kind of strategies would you employ to ensure that the AI systems are trustworthy, do align with ethical standards?
Yep. It's really important to understand what you're trying to solve with AI, especially before you either purchase or build something for yourself. What are you really after? What are you trying to achieve with it? And then I think as long as the tooling you choose to use, you thoroughly understand where it is, where it's come from, when you're interacting with it, what's it doing with your data, how's it being built, how's it making the decisions it's making for you, where is that data physically going, all those sorts of things. If you make sure that you really understand that, then and it does align with even the geography in which you're in, I think it's a great start. If you're building things yourself, again, you need to think about what it is you're trying to achieve. Before you start coding, you need to ask yourself, what am I trying to achieve with this? What is the impact? Think about data privacy concerns potentially. Think about bias. If an organization's building something, an organization has a bias. And so, how do you make sure that what you're building or what you buy isn't biased in any way as well? That's becoming increasingly more important. Why it's making the decisions it's making, why it's giving you that response, and what you need to do to maintain a good ethical usage of these tools, I think, is important.
And just to expand a bit more into sort of the AI integration and trust element, how do you approach the integration of AI technologies into an organisation, either at ones you've worked at or where you've been in a consultancy role, and ensuring that it does actually complement the data infrastructures?
I think, again, it comes down to what are you trying to achieve, and does it complement? I think that was a great way of putting it, Emma, is it needs to be complementary. You shouldn't be doubling effort with these things, and it's not necessarily going to be able to completely replace something. So I think having a process of consultation. Do we need this? Why do we need this? Is this the tool? Are there others? Is this exactly what we need? How easy will that implementation be? Does that compromise our data in any way? Because it's all in one place, and then suddenly with this AI, it goes there and comes back, and all those different things. But I think it's about having good governance around it and making sure that there's some sort of committee or group that looks at this regularly with the speed at which we're moving in this space. I think it's something that needs to be consistently looked at, and again, having someone accountable for making sure that those checks and balances are in place before you do go ahead and implement something is key to getting it right.
And some of the key areas around trustworthy AI is around the principles of transparency and explainability. So looking at those two key areas, how do you continue, or how do you address those two areas to make sure that we continuously foster that trust element?
You have to make sure that you are, as well as having groups or committees in place looking at new things, having them periodically reevaluate what you've already got, and making sure that you can almost audit yourself, audit those systems, audit those tools, to make sure that they are still compliant with the not just sort of regulatory requirements, but also the values of the organisation that you're working for or working with. I think it's just that continuous checking, and again, making sure that the tools you're using are also see this as important and can provide you that information if you ask for it. I think, like you say, transparency is incredibly important, explainability, and I think where I see things going more in terms of regulation, I think auditing any AI that we use will become a potential requirement. You know, something we're going to need to do. We're going to have to be able to prove that, you know, the AI is working as intended, and working ethically and within the sort of parameters that you've set. And I think it's a key risk area that people need to look at. But I think it's something that comes. We're not going to have all the right answers, but I think if you periodically and regularly audit these things and and do that, that's the best that you can really do. It takes some time, but it's important to have somebody that has the responsibility to do that. I think that's where it'll head.
Just touching on regulations, I mean, we've got the DIFC Regulation 10, which is already enacted, which requires that transparency and explainability requirements to be in place. We're looking at Saudi Arabia's coming up with a lot more regulations, and then the broader UAE market as well, and the broader Middle East market as well.
It will just get stronger.
Yeah.
It's something that we all will need to think about.
And I do think, I mean, this is a bold statement, but for organisations that have not started thinking about this already, you're kind of late to the game.
Yeah.
And you've already got AI systems out there that are potentially not doing what it's meant to be doing and not protecting society and humans.
Correct.
So if you haven't started, act now.
Yeah, well, exactly. Look, it's never too late to make a start, but it is important. Anything like this, if you're truly going to build trust for your people, if you're going to build trust to clients, or basically get that feeling of trust for you as an organisation or even a person, you need to be seen to be doing not just what's required, but more than. The regulations are just that starting point. That's the bare minimum that you should be doing. The more you do, the easier it's going to be to build that reputation of being a trustworthy person and organisation when it comes to using these products.
Agreed. And we've talked a bit about risk management, but what measures would you recommend or would you advise organisations to put in place when it comes to mitigating risks associated with AI?
That is a very big question. And again, classic consulting answer of it depends. It depends on the nature and the size of and the scale of what you've got. It's harder the more you're dealing with. Setting some realistic sort of checkpoints and milestones and targets as well to hold yourself accountable to, I think is important. Those regular meetings, having people come together. So it's not just one person. This is a team sport, the world of data within an organisation. So I would say that definitely bringing people together to talk more about it and to have honest conversations with what's going right, what's going wrong, what could potentially go wrong, and putting things in place. Don't be reactive. As I say, be as proactive as you can be. If you do that in whatever guise that manifests for you, that's the right way to go.
I liked how you refer to data as being a team sport, because it actually is, right? Like, you need everybody on the same page, on the same game.
You can't be operating in silo on this stuff. And that's why having an understanding of the business, having the relationships across the business is so important, because you do need to be able to bring people together to do this and to do it well.
Yeah. And let's talk a bit more about the regional perspectives and initiatives that we see going on. I mean, we've talked about some of the regulations in the region, but how does the digital transformation landscape in the Middle East influence your strategies around data and AI?
The great thing about this region is how fast things move. It's things literally happen overnight. It's ever growing. It's ambitious, very innovative. Everybody's rushing to do the next big thing, which is great. However, that comes with more and more challenges that you need to also make sure that you're addressing along the way. But I think also respect and the culture here of trust is incredibly important. And so you can't forget that. In fact, it should be at the forefront of anything that you do. You need to think about the culture here. Across the region, and make sure that whatever you're building or buying understands that. It's not the AI tools aren't like a one size fits all, or shouldn't be. You should be able to tailor these tools to a culture and to a region and to what you need them to do. I think that's why it's incredibly important here. So the speed is great, the innovation is great. Just don't forget the challenges that come with that, and make sure that you're not unknowingly potentially damaging an organization, a brand, an individual along the way, because that's important here.
I agree with the local sort of requirements and culture requirements, and it was great to see that Mohammed bin Zayed University for AI rolled out the first Arabic large language model along with G42. Right. So we are seeing the innovation come and also building on the culture and the local requirements here as well. So it's great that we are seeing those in tandem together. So you have also been involved in a number of different diversity elements. You've been leading the way in She Loves Data and contributing to that in this region, as well as other graduate programs. Can you touch on a bit about some of the benefits of the initiatives you've been working on and what it means to you to be part of those initiatives?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things I discovered along the way and along my journey is actually how much I enjoy the team sport element of what we do. And like with any team, you need a diverse group. You need differences. You need different genders. You need different backgrounds and upbringings. You need different languages. You need different cultures to make a really good combined team effort. So being involved and having an opportunity to take part in initiatives like She Loves Data, speaking on various panels. I've worked with The Economist a few times, doing things around women in technology, getting graduates in. With my time at PwC, bringing some internal graduates on was important, because we don't have all the answers. We can't think we have all the answers. We need young, fresh, new voices. Bringing women into that data area, I found was incredibly important, because one thing I learned was, don't be scared about data. You hear data and some people go, oh, it's not me, I don't do data. Well, you do. You're handling it every day. You have a phone. Everything in there is your data. It's your stuff. When you start to break it down and explain it to people, whether that be women or men, it's incredibly it's empowering to do that, and I get a lot of happiness from it. I was going to say satisfaction. It's happiness. It makes me happy seeing people be curious and helping them understand that they don't have to be scared by it. It doesn't have to be your day job. You don't have to be the most technical person to be good in this space or to understand it. And so I really enjoy that element of what I do, and I hope that I get to do more of it.
That's very good. I think it is just so important. I mean, I know diversity has been on the agenda for such a long time, but it just becomes more and more imperative when we go into the world of AI.
Yeah.
And just making sure we get those diverse opinions, because that's what helps get rid of the bias, or at least mitigate the bias as well.
Correct. And having different people will spot different things. Some people will spot things a lot sooner than others. Some people will have completely different views on the way something should be built, or what decision to take. And I find that quite fascinating about our job. I've always been very intrigued by how decisions are made, and being able to contribute to that is very satisfying.
And we've talked a bit about the cultural requirements here in the Middle East, but what factors do you think are so unique to the Middle East that you really need to consider when developing data strategies in AI implementations?
I really only work in the Middle East. It's hard to see if we're very much different to anywhere else. I actually don't think we are. I think if you've thought about the cultural aspect, and you've thought about the geography that you're in and the people that you're impacting, I think everywhere does that. Anywhere in the world should be doing that. Whether they are, I suppose, is a different question. But I don't think we're that different in that sense. I think we have some very different requirements. So I think if it comes down to that sort of those policies and regulations, I think they're the things that really differentiate us. But I think everything else is the same worldwide, really, just at different levels. With everywhere, trust is at the heart of what we need to do. Respecting the people around us. That shouldn't just be a Middle East thing because it's more culturally recognized. I think that should just be something that everybody does, no matter where you are.
Agreed. Respect with humans is such a big deal that we always need to think about. Yeah. So I want us to move now more into, we've talked about diversity, and I want us to talk more about leadership and future outlook. How do you define your leadership style, and how does it influence your approach to data and AI governance?
My leadership style is, I'd like to think it's one of encouraging others. And I think it's creating a safe, trusting space for people to thrive. I can't lead a team if I don't trust them and they don't trust me. I can't get the business to make a decision with me or for me if they don't trust me and the team. So I think for me, my leadership style is about people first, and it's really empowering others to bring their skills, bring their voice, not be afraid to be heard. I think there's no I in team, and that's the same. Whoever I'm working with, it doesn't matter for me. It's, we're all equals at the end of the day, and fostering that kind of way of working, I think, is my style. And for a data and an AI and digital perspective, again, it starts with people. The technology's the technology, but the people, putting that first, that human sort of touch first, is what I think makes me good at what I do.
Yeah, that's good, and certainly makes a difference. I know, like, my own leadership style has changed so much over the years, and it just has to, and you have to keep adapting to new ways of working, new things you're doing with the team, new people coming into your team. I'm incredibly passionate about driving like a high performing team and giving people that voice and making sure that they do have the platform in which they can actually use their voice and speak up. And I probably am no longer the loudest person in the room when it comes to my team, because they've really got such a strong, high performing team.
It was an evolution.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a cocky, loud, I was the loud person in the room, when I started. And, over time, I've definitely mellowed. Now, don't get me wrong, I still can be when needed, to be that voice. But I think what I've learned is I actually get that happiness and satisfaction from seeing other people thrive. And when I've over the years, I've had the benefit of working with some amazing people and seeing where they are today. Whether you've worked with me for years or just a few weeks or months, I'm honoured to be part of other people's journey. I'm on my own journey, but actually my journey wouldn't be half what it is without the people around me. And so I think you have to lead with your heart as well as your head sometimes. I think that for me, now, does that mean I'm not as ruthless as others, and I can't, I'm not as I don't know what you would say, but different leaders have very different styles. For me, I could never not have that anymore. I could never not have that way of working with bringing a team with me and letting them fly. It's what makes it great.
I've just actually purchased Jacinda Ardern's book, A Different Kind of Power. And politics aside, I'm really interested to see what she had to say, because her whole drive was around driving kindness in leadership. And does that really work, or just getting her viewpoints as well?
I should read that, because I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer. I mean, so many, I know, unfortunately, too many that don't lead with kindness. We're here for such a short time on this earth. I think life's too short not to be kind. And if that means I don't get that top job or that, that space that I want, actually, you know what, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'd rather be happy and working in a happy environment, especially, sometimes, the data stuff can be incredibly stressful. All of our jobs can be incredibly stressful. Just being kind and having that feeling of team around you that is in it, together, it just makes it a little bit more easy to take anyway.
Yeah. And I think our own leadership style has been derived from our own lived experiences and how you've seen leaders that you've looked up to, or the ones that have been, you've been working with, to take out the good and bad, and which direction you want to take.
Absolutely. And that for me, I'd like to be seen as, I'd a role model to others, that they see that you can be a leader and you can be kind. You could do it. It doesn't mean you're making soft decisions. We're making very hard decisions, and sometimes, you can deliver bad news very kindly, or not. But I think for me, I'd like to be seen as somebody that others would look up to and say, I can do both.
Yeah.
And it's okay. That for me is important.
That's good. And we've talked about diversity and the need to have a diverse team and bringing diversity into leadership as well. So how does this perspective shape your team's approach to building trustworthy AI systems?
I think just making sure that enough different opinions or differences have been built into whatever you're building or buying. Has everybody had a say that needed to have a say? It shouldn't just be one person making these decisions. What's the process been to get to this point? I think as long as you do that, then you should be in a good place with this. But yeah, even the smallest voices need to be heard in these things, and making sure that when you are bringing these groups or committees together, that it is a diverse enough group. And it don't just mean gender. There's lots of different things. And I've been fortunate to work with organizations and for organizations that are very diverse in its makeup. And so for us, that was fairly easy to do. But I know at others it can be harder. But just ask. There's plenty of organizations out there that can help with, if you don't have enough people to become as diverse as you want to be, go and ask. Don't be afraid to ask. I think it's better to ask than not, and hope that everything's going to be okay.
Yeah. And looking ahead, what trends do you foresee in the intersection of data and AI, as well as building trust at the same time? And how should organizations prepare for these developments?
What we're going to see more of is the regulations around the usage of AI and the transparency that you've used it or that you are using it, and the quality. I think there's a role to be had and played as organizations use it more and more. How are you going to quality control that? How are you going to make sure that the outputs are at a standard that is suitable for the work that you're doing or providing? So I think that's where we're going to see the roles. It will be more the roles, I think, that will evolve. The need for people to be responsible for various elements, whether that be the governance, the risk, etc., the quality. They will become responsibilities that someone will need to take on. So I think it's more around that than anything else. I think there's a big piece around educating your people, educating staff. You can't just expect people to suddenly know how to use these things to their full potential. I think there is a role in sort of that data literacy angle. So I think that becomes more important as well. So if you aren't educating or upskilling your people enough, I think that's going to slow you down as well. So I think that's something that you need to prepare for. I think it's going to take some time. It is going to take some money to do that. But I think that's important because you need people to be moving along as quickly as you are. And these AI tools aren't just going to solve things for you overnight. They're not just going to make things bigger and better straight away. You need to get your people upskilled. So I think that's a big evolving piece as well.
Yeah. And I know you've given us a lot of really good advice and insights so far, but I want us to touch more on kind of your personal insights and advice. So what drives your passion for data and AI? And how do you stay motivated to face those challenges that we all come up against?
I love learning. And I'm curious. I one of my sort of values is around personal growth. And so if you're not learning something new, not every day, but if you're not learning something new, for me, that's when I get bored. That's when I lose interest. The great thing about data and AI is that it's always changing. Something with it is always changing, whether that be the rules around being able to use it, what you can do with it. And with AI, I mean, you can't even imagine. The possibilities are endless. And for me, I'm never going to be the person that comes up with something cool and new, but I'm definitely going to be the person that wants to give it a go and wants to use something. And so again, for me, seeing what people are building, seeing these incredible things that I couldn't have even imagined, but then are seemingly so simple, and you think, why didn't I think of this? But no, for me, it's that curiosity that I have. And I think if you are a person that loves to do that, learn something new. I'm not the most technical person in the room. I can understand what I need to understand to be able to do my job. In my teams, I have great people that are technical, and that's their superpower. It's definitely not mine. But being curious enough to read about it, to play with something, to get my hands on things, not being afraid to be curious, not being afraid to try and fail. I think a lot with AI, there's a lot of opportunity to learn from mistakes as well as winning from them. So I think for me that's my personal motivator. Yeah.
And what advice would you give someone that wants to get into a chief data officer role?
My journey wasn't that direct. I didn't wake up one day and decide I want to be a data officer. I certainly didn't dream about being that when I was a little girl. Far from it. I think I'd have laughed at you for being in this space. But no, I think you need to be passionate about more than just the data itself. You can't just be a data scientist. You can't just be a number cruncher or a dashboard builder or those things. But it's a great skill set to have. I think you need to be passionate about the other things. You need to understand the importance of the regulations, and you need to understand the importance of the ethics behind it. And I think if you've got all of those elements as well, and then you understand business and how business works in whatever industry that you're in, if you have all of those things, then that will set you up well to be in a data space. I think have a voice, be curious about it, speak up about it. You might not be your day job today. To make those moves, you need to start having a voice and having an opinion about it. So ask questions, be inquisitive, join organizations like She Loves Data or equivalent other things. Be curious. You don't have to do this in your day job. You can do it in your spare time as well. But I think data is becoming increasingly important. It needs to be at the front of everything that you're doing. I mean, be careful what you wish for. But it's, I'd say, be curious and don't be afraid to ask the hard questions.
Yeah. And reflecting on your career, what legacy do you want to leave behind in the world of data and AI?
My legacy. As long as I've left people in a better place than they were in an organization, and its technology and its tools and its way of working in a better state than when I found it, that's probably a good legacy to have. It's the human side. Technology comes and goes. Tools come and go. The people are the ones that are driving these things. They're the ones switching the lights on and off every day. So I think for me, the legacy is have I left it in a better place for them and to be able to do their job.
I love that. People are so important, and humans are so important in the world of AI.
Yeah, and I think everyone's talking about how it's going to replace us all. It really isn't. It's going to change the way you work. It's going to improve. For me, I see it as a quality enhancer of everything that we do is just going to be better, but only if you embrace it well.
Yeah. I love that, Amy. I've loved having you on AI Trust Talks today. So thank you so much. That's it for today's episode of AI Trust Talks. I hope this conversation has sparked new insights and empowered you to think critically about the role of AI in our lives. Together, we have the power to shape the future where technology serves humanity responsibly and ethically. If you have found this episode valuable, don't forget to subscribe, share, and join the conversation. Your voice matters in building a trusted AI future. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and let's keep building trust in technology, one conversation at a time.